All right, okay. Well, good morning, Jim Walker. Welcome to the Fairhope Public Library's Veterans History Project. We're very happy to have you here with us today, and we are going to ask you some of your personal experiences that you went through when you were in the service, and also we'd like to know a little bit about your background, your family. I know that you were born in Mobile, Alabama, and your birth date was January the 28th, 1927. And you are now living in Daphne.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and you went into the Marine Corps in 1946? 46, and you stayed there until 1968, right?
I stayed there until 48. And
Oh, 48, and then
that's 20 years. And then I went to work at Ciba Chemical Company in McIntosh for another 20 years.
Oh, okay.
So my first 20 was with the Marine Corps. And the second 20 years before I retired was, second 20 years I spent was at the Ciba Chemical Company in McIntosh, Alabama.
Okay, all right. And
Right.
you served your time in Korea when you were in the service, and of course over in Okinawa. And you came out as a master sergeant.
Yes, ma'am, that is
Mhm.
correct.
And tell me, let me see, you went in 46, so you must have been 19 years old, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little something about your family and why you decided to go into the Marine Corps, and if anybody else in your family went into the Marine Corps or any other branch of service?
No, I'm the only member of my family that ever went into the Marine Corps. And I told my father that I was joining up and going. He says, well, as a remark, I thought sometimes you were crazy, but now I know it because of the things that they do and what they do. And he said, you've seen some of them on television and how they treat the troops and all. I said, yes, but if I can't defeat them, I'll join them and be one of them. And he says, you've said enough. Go ahead and do what you want to do. So I'll go with my father. So I stayed in the Marine Corps for 20 years, and then in 1955 I got married to Ola Mae and Marshall Walker. She also lived and was grown up in Mobile.
I see.
They lived in Mobile. Neither one of us have college education, but we had children. We were blessed with 4 children, 3 boys and a girl, and only the oldest son, went on to college. The others did not yet. So,
Sounds like
our oldest son, when he was in high school, got a job with the Corps of Engineers in Mobile,
Mm-hmm.
and he was fortunate to get what you call it.
Did he follow in your footsteps by any chance?
No, he said he'd seen enough of it when we were stationed in the Marine Corps, and we were stationed on the base at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and the base at Cherry Point, North Carolina. So we lived on 2 bases, different times, of course. And he said there he saw enough of the Marine Corps, he didn't care to get into it himself.
Yeah.
How could you do it? And you hear the old, I was always so very soft-spoken and very easygoing, and then they'd say, well, how in the world did you ever choose to go into the Marine Corps when you know they're so rough and tough and mean and beating up on each other? I said, oh, well, that's more for fun than it is for work until you try it. Well, they laughed at that also, but that worked real well. And now our oldest son, Jim Jr., lives and works a nice job with the Corps of Engineers in Washington, D.C.
Oh, well, that's just wonderful.
Our second son, Tom, lives with his wife and 2 daughters in Daphne, and he is a member of the Daphne Fire Department, very eagerly involved in everything and anything the fire department has to do, he's in on it. And our third son, Terry, decided he didn't want neither one of them, so he has a lawn service business in Daphne.
Oh, I
Goes around
see.
cutting lawns and bushes and shrubbery and
Well, good.
does lawn work.
Well, tell us, Jim, now, tell us what your impressions were when you went to Korea. How long were you in the military before you went over into Korea?
I went over in '53, and I stayed for 13 months.
Stayed for 13 months. And which part of Korea were you in?
Ironically, I was right up on the front line. Would take a rock and throw it to the other country. I was that close. They took a bulldozer, ran the road way across it, put barbed wire all the way across that, and on one side was north, the other side was on south. I was on the south. But actually, fortunately for my sake, you never had to fire any weapons at all during the 13 months that I was there. I was blessed in that regard. I didn't serve any. But I was there, I was the first sergeant in charge of all the troops as the master sergeant. And in spare time, I made a payroll and sent it back in and had to work with the troops on paying them to send some of their money back to the United States to their relatives and friends, wherever they want to send it to. Had to work with that.
Did you, while you were in Korea, did you ever fight with any of the Turkish troops
No,
that
ma'am.
came over? No.
No. We saw them, but we didn't have any fighting with any of them.
Did you have any experiences, excuse me, that well, for the sake of the word, that haunt you to this day from being over there?
I beg your pardon?
I'm sorry, it's my throat. Did you have any experiences over there that haunt you, that you think about to this day?
No, fortunately I'm very blessed. Everything went smooth and easy during the 13 months I was there. I didn't have any kind of a confrontation of any kind. I was real blessed in that direction.
How were the winters over there?
The winters were very cold, but fortunately for all of us, the U.S. government had special clothing made for us to wear. And if we wore the clothing like they told us to wear it, the suits and the sweaters and the coats and things, if we wore it like they told us to wear it, you had no problem. And the only problem was one or two of the troopers thought they knew more about it than what I did or what you did. And so they said, I'm going to leave the sweater or coat off. But usually they didn't leave it very long. Till they got so cold, they hurriedly went back and put it back on, like they're supposed to.
Mm.
They didn't have to go through a training cycle. All they had to do was go out there in the cold one time. And that way they found out real quick like to do it. But it was no problem other than and then no shooting during the period of time I was there.
Did you ever have any people from the area that you were in taken out and taken back to MASH units?
No.
No, you didn't.
We did not.
No. Was the fighting further south or east or west from where you were? It sounds like there wasn't too much fighting going on where you were.
Well, we were right across the demilitarized zone, as they called it, across Korea there. And it's more like putting a fence across there. And on one side, north side, was North Korean. South side, of course, called South Koreans.
Did you have any South Vietnamese in your unit or helping your unit along?
Yes, we had some of them what they volunteered.
I mean South Korean, excuse me.
They washed clothing in a crude manner, of course. Then cleaned the trucks, serviced the vehicles, and you had to keep all the vehicles and weapons on ready to go at any moment, of course. And some of the troops stayed awake during the night, others slept during the night. We had a very close vigil of the troops and where we were. You had to be mindful of be walking down the path and what may be around you. And if you saw anything unusual, be careful of what you did. Whether you try to shoot them or apprehend them in any way, then you don't want to create a disturbance, because one little shot could really create a tremendous uproar.
While you were there at the DMZ, were you anticipating having any Chinese troops attack you?
No, we were on alert a few times. They said that there's some of them coming a little further, closer to our line than what we want them to be. And we just set the cars offsetting troops coming back from north down to south, so that they was getting close enough to I see you and you see me,
Mm-hmm.
but never actually hand to hand. We were, perhaps 50 yards apart. We weren't close enough to touch hand. We were close enough so we could easily shoot each other and create an uproar in that direction.
I see. Oh. So then, when you finished your 13-month stint in Korea, did you come back to the United States,
Yes, I did.
stateside, and where were you then?
I went once again to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where I had gone during my tour duty in the Marine Corps. I went back there 4 times. I went away, and they transferred me back there. I went away, they transferred me back again to Camp Lejeune. So I got rather familiar with that base.
Oh, I can imagine. Did your family stay at the base while you were gone, or did they come back to Mobile?
They came back to Mobile because they didn't want to stay up there, not really, so to know anybody, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the only grandchildren my wife's family had. She had a brother and a sister. Both of them got married, but neither one had any children. So we had the 4 children. So the grandparents were naturally eager for us to come home and visit with them, so they would have a chance to visit with the grandchildren.
I see. But did your wife follow you most of the time? I mean, when you were back and when you kept going back and forth to Camp Lejeune, did your family come back then? They did.
They did.
And did you live on the base at that
Yes,
time?
we were fortunate the housing was available and had set up for us, and we just had to move into it.
Oh, wonderful. Now, I noticed that you also were in Okinawa. Was that an unaccompanied tour for you to go over there?
No, that was company tour. Went back there. There again, we had troops just on line.
And how long were you over in Okinawa?
It ran about 14 months.
About 14
about
months.
a year on each place.
I see that you were also a sharpshooter.
Well, you wanted to be out on the front lines, not only for the small weapons, but for the larger weapons as well. Know how to set the dials and gauges to shoot long distances or short distances. But I was fortunate I never got really engaged in any of them.
What was the training like to be a sharpshooter?
Practice, more practice.
And was that in Camp Lejeune that you learned to do that?
Yes, it was.
You must have been pretty good at it, because I see that you got a badge, a sharpshooter's badge.
I did.
Yeah. So then did you train other people in sharpshooting?
No, I didn't. When we take troops to the rifle range to practice the shooting, I was the first sergeant, the one in charge, and I just took the troops there, and the people who ran the rifle range and the target practicing had their jobs to do. And like you, I just simply brought the troops who was under my charge out to the rifle range. And the people who manned the rifle range maintained it and was teaching our troopers and practicing how to shoot it.
Mm. Did you, of course, have to take care of your own weapons, I assume?
Oh, yes. You had, most of the time, you had weapons. As soon as you report into a base, like Camp Lejeune, they gave you a rifle. And that rifle stayed right with you, stationed with you, as long as you were there at that base. And then when you left that base to go to another one, you turned the rifle back into to the armory.
I see. And so it says here that it was for a .45 pistol that you received your sharpshooter.
Yes, ma'am.
But you mentioned that there was sharpshooting in with other weaponry as well.
Both with the pistol and with the rifle. I didn't get into the other larger weapons, machine guns and things, because we had other troops that did this on a daily basis. And I only did it occasionally, because I was working in the payroll department and handling the payroll. So I did very little contact with the troops. We were maintaining the readiness status of the other weapons at the base.
Now, when you were involved with the payroll department, and say that they're one of the one of the Marines was killed, would you then be in charge of getting all of his pay records ready for that to go back to Washington for his family?
We did.
You would do that.
I made contact. And then, let's say, for example, the person that died or got killed for some reason was parents, relatives were lived in Fairhope, for example. Then I would make contact with the Marines locally, wherever they were, and we would make arrangements with the family to whatever kind of funeral they want to have. Sometimes they have very little to do with the other well survived the war, and most of the time they'd want the Marines there in the dress blues uniform to escort and carry the casket around and move it from the hearse to the burial space and into the house and all. Then in contact with the people, family engaged in it. I was very fortunate. I only had to do it a few times.
I see.
So I didn't get much involved in that.
And where did that take you when you came back? Where were these homes that you carry the escorted the caskets back to?
We had the troops that were stationed in, for example, you say that one was from Mobile. We would see where the closest unit, Marine unit, was to Mobile. And then we'd contact them and make the arrangements for the actual funeral.
I see. And so were the caskets come back primarily on a plane? And then when they came back, did they continue on a plane if they were further inland, or did they go by train?
Some went by train, and then anytime they went anywhere, by bus or by train or anything, we always had one or two Marines to escort the casket and make sure it was sealed up and closed up by the carpenters to close the casket all up for shipment. And then it was shipped there.
Right. So what about your, what you learned in the Marine Corps? In many ways, not necessarily skills as far as rifles are concerned, but people skills and life's experience skills. How did you transfer them back then, or did you, to your civilian life?
No, I had no problem, because I was very sincere about my work, congenial, with others, and I had no problem moving from one to the other, as some people occasionally didn't want to move or something.
And have you kept in touch with your friends that you served with in the Marine Corps?
No, unfortunately, we all got married and went in different directions, and I did not keep up with very few of them here, or anywhere at all, because most of them were from other places.
Has your group ever had any reunions? Have you ever attended a reunion of your friends?
Only twice. Once they had a reunion here in Mobile for a group earlier, and they had another group over in New Orleans, which when we went over there, of course the Marines over there took us around New Orleans because we didn't know anything about it. They would escort us around and make the arrangements for the funeral and things.
And so there must have been a lot of old stories that came up during your reunions, I guess, huh?
Yeah, there were some that came up. But most of the time when you get talking about it, then they say, no, they change the subject, get off on something else. You didn't really want to stay on it. Only one or two of them would really want to continue talking about what happened or how it happened. And usually it happened to someone that they became a close friendship with. And of course it was hard to separate from them because they had been close friends.
I see. And so then you came back and you worked here in the Mobile area for another 20-year period. I mean,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
worked in civilian life and raised your family here.
I did.
You did. And so do you still have a lot of family here in the area?
Well, I'm very blessed in regard to the oldest son is the one who lives up in D.C. The other two sons live in Daphne. And The third is our daughter. She deceased in an automobile accident.
I see. Well, if a young man came up to you today and said that he wanted to join the Marine Corps, what would you suggest to him? What would you tell him?
I would tell him that unless he is willing to take orders and commands and do what he's told to do without hesitation or any reason to resist temptation, if he can't get along with the rest of the people, then he best not join. And then, I don't know if the current Mobile office has one or not, but when I was here before, they had a movie film that they would show to a Marine that came into the recruiting office about some of the life in the Marine Corps and give them some idea, if they had never seen it, what life would be like being in the Marine Corps. Give them some overview of what life was like.
Have you ever gone to any of the schools to talk to the students about your experiences in the war? I mean, in the Korean War?
Yes, I did. After I came back, I was stationed at one time in Mobile, and I did go out to Viga and Murphy high schools and talk to students at those schools. And the other times, I let the other Marines stationed here in Mobile with me go. I didn't want to play hoggish and get all the time to go speak to them, and I wanted the other troops to see what it was like to speak to those who may have been in for a while, others that may have just came in for a short time.
Did any of those young men, after you spoke, come up and talk to you personally about the Marine Corps after you spoke?
No, only on occasions. Are you familiar with the Toys for Tots program?
Mm-hmm.
Well, ironically, as you might want to know, in 1950, the Atlanta office of Marine Corps District called and asked me to take on the project of the Toys for Tots program in the Mobile area. So I got busy and I went to Chin's laundry service and got some of the 55-gallon drums. And then the Marine Corps Atlanta office sent me the big plackets of a Marine, which you put onto the barrel, tape it onto it.
Mm-hmm.
We had a pickup truck, and I took them out to like the mall, Bel Air Mall, Princeton Mall, and put the barrels there. And we collected all both clothing and food, cans of course, items. And then about every day or two, we'd go by and empty the drums, take what was out of them, and bring it back. And any food that we got, the clothing, we gave it to local Salvation Army most of the time, because we had no actual way to dispose of it in the recruiting office. So, in the Salvation Army, and so they would give the things to the Salvation Army to use. But Mr. Chin was real good about giving us more barrels. Anytime I called him and said, I put out 6 barrels and I don't have any more. Do you have any more barrels? Can I get a couple more from you? And he'd say, yes, today or maybe tomorrow next week. Maybe none today, maybe tomorrow. But he was very good at giving us that. And the businesses at that time, and I'll tell you a little on age, Gavers and Hamels. Did you ever know those in Mobile?
No.
They were old, very old businesses from many years back in Mobile. And they had businesses in downtown Mobile. And they gave us some things to give to other people from the Toys for Tots program. And I was responsible for setting up and maintaining that program in the Mobile area. And I still go when they have their Toys for Tots program near Christmas time and go and participate and see what they're doing and how they're doing it and make any suggestions after they felt was necessary.
And do you recall when the Toys for Tots program came out? What year it began?
1950.
It began in 1950, and it's
Here in the Mobile
here
area.
in Mobile.
Of course, they may have before it started Mobile. They had in other parts of the United States where they sent the program out from Washington. But the Mobile office where I was here was responsible for this area around here.
It's been a very strong program for the Marine Corps
Yes,
to
ma'am.
go out and to do this. I know oftentimes at Christmas time you'll see the young Marines in their lovely dress uniforms standing outside of different places asking if you will give these toys. Are they given to the community that you're near, or are any of them given to children of Marines who are, not, who have a hard time getting extra toys for their children?
We do. We ask them to contact either the recruiting office or the reserve office here in the Mobile area. And then we have someone, me most of the time, but would contact them and either go see them or they'd come see us and make arrangements to see what they needed and to get the needed supplies for them.
Well, that's wonderful.
And it worked real well. Occasionally some of them come and say, well, somebody's got a bicycle that's better than mine, and I just want to change it and get a new one.
I see.
You got to kind of talk with them and say, well, it's nice, but you got to learn to share. That's part of the Tots program, to share. If we got 4 or 5 bicycles, then maybe one family wouldn't get them all. We'd share
Sure.
with other.
Are there any other programs that you're involved with the Marine Corps other than the Toys for Tots?
No.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty big undertaking.
It is. It keeps us kind of occupied from, usually we start about in November, getting lined up with the different companies. And then we don't put the barrels out usually until maybe the first week or so of December.
I
We
see.
don't want to put it out too far in advance because we get too much brought in, we got no place to put it. So we didn't want to start collecting too soon. So we'd have some room.
So I assume that your life in the Marine Corps made you dedicated then to this Toys for Tots
Very much.
program.
It did.
It's very worthy. Your career has been very worthy, sir, as
Yeah, it has been
being in
very
the Marine Corps and your civilian life and bringing up your family, and also continuing with this wonderful idea, the Toys for Tots program, which I'm sure has brought a lot of
Yes.
happiness to people.
I'm sure
And
it has.
we really and truly thank you for coming today. And is there anything else that you would like to tell us, say to us about your life in the Marine Corps?
No, I was very fortunate to have been well taken care of and was able to be very congenial with all other troops. Whether sometimes you have to be real hard and firm, as you might see it on television, and how they do get kind of hard at times. But that's all part of the life they live. They weren't battered in any harsh way.
Well,
And I have really enjoyed it and enjoyed being here, and the benefits I have derived from my family and myself for having spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. Tell you one little thing that I didn't want to put on that film. When I first went to the Marine Corps in 1946, then I was interviewed when you first went in, as to where they're going to assign you, and I was assigned to the intelligence department. So, but I went down afterwards and spoke to the person who I was assigned for duty, and he said, "Oh, we need some help today working with the payroll. Will you come help us with payroll?" Well, my father and 2 brothers had been accountants, so there's accounting in the system, in my blood, so to speak. But so I went with them and did it. And the payroll at that time in 1946 was a long sheet of paper with a piece of carbon paper in it, which you might know what carbon paper is. And we had a list. You had the person's serial number, last name, first name, middle initial, the money you're going to pay them, and then, for example, $75 is broken into how many 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s. And you put it on a line. And then you had, as I recall, there was about 28 names on each sheet of paper. So you put it out and adding those across and then adding them down to get the right numbers correct. You did it. And where you would enjoy about it was the fact that that payroll was made up with a pencil and a piece of paper. There was no adding machine, calculators, and what's a computer? We made the payroll things up by pencil, and you had to just keep sharpening the pencil. So, and of course, the youngsters today, you tell them you had made a payroll something up by pencil. They said, "What's a pencil?"
Oh my.
When I was working with, I wound up working all my time with payrolls,
With payroll.
cash and. Oh,
Very important job.
One more little quickie. When I retired in 1968, before I actually did retirement, the Interstate 10 from Jacksonville, Florida, you know where the other end of it is?
Mm-hmm.
San Diego. And you go out here right now, and you're on Highway US 90. Go one way, and you'll land in Jacksonville. Go the other way and stay on 90. You'll be in San Diego. The one highway goes across country. So, well, this section of it from Tallahassee up closer to Pensacola was being construction at the time I was, the last few years before retirement. The Saturday when I retired, the officer says, "And I got some real good news for you. I found out from the State Department, that Florida State Department. Starting next Monday, we're going to open a roadway and you can drive your car from Tallahassee over to Pensacola. Before that, we rode on 2-lane country roads, back roads, getting to Mobile. And going from it. And so we're there. So, and then the same Monday that the states opened the highway department, the Marine Corps started paying my check.
Oh.
I never got to dealing with checks, always payroll, because they didn't start working the payroll by checks until the day after I retired.
Oh my. Well, they lost their good person with cash then.
But one thing was, every payday, we paid all the troops by cash. You have the faintest idea how many thousands of dollars every month I had in payroll in cash. And that wasn't legally authorized, because I was enlisted man, to handle any money at all. But fortunately, the one officer that took to me, he used his account, and I did all kinds of payroll work and everything else, and put his name on it, and he just initially handed it back to me.
Isn't that something? My goodness. Have to be honorable to have that job.
Oh, when you imagine a table stacked up over, and the stacked bill you see where money is on slabs. Have you ever picked up one of the slabs in your hand? Any idea how much money you had? If you ever been in a bank and see what they call a slab of money?
Yeah.
You ever pick up one of them and wonder how much money you had in your hand? Of course, it would vary depending on whether it was all ones or all fives or tens or 20. But no matter which they were, you had a lot of money in that one slab. And when we were going to have payday, the bank's truck would bring money up to us, and we'd go in to the truck, they'd bring in the slabs of money to us. And then we'd sit, myself and 2 other officers, would sit at the table, and we'd go sorting out. Take A company, how many 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s? B company, how many 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s? And you got through, you finally got down to the bottom of the table, where you get to the last row. That's what you always look for, the last row of money. Meant you was through. But I just have so many thousands of dollars that it just, to handle money nowadays, it doesn't faze me. Whether you give me 100,000 or 200,000, I think nothing of it.
Well, thank you so very much for coming and being with us today.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my opinions and information. And I'm glad I had the chance to share it with you and all the others who will be seeing this particular program.
Thank you, sir.
You are.
Thank you for your
very much.
service.